Good evening, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Finance Committee meeting for January 4th, 2023. We do have a quorum here for tonight. We're missing two on the team this evening, but we will press on without them. So the agenda for tonight, we have inspectional services, town clerk, veteran services, and the water enterprise department heads here to brief their budget review and presentation. A little shift in the order. We're going to go with the town clerk first and then jump back up to the order that we have on the agenda. After that, we'll review the meeting minutes that Kelly put together for us from December 7th and the 21st. There is no correspondence, and we'll discuss any liaison reports that we might have. Before we start with the town clerk, does the committee have anything to discuss or any comments to the agenda that we have? No? Perfect. All right. So, town clerk, would you please come on up to the podium? And the floor is yours. The floor is yours.
It's definitely a different format, so what would you?
Well, so you provided the mission statement. And
I did.
By no means do you have to read, word for word, but if you just want to talk us through at a high level, what your mission is this year and the achievements from the past year and the goals for next year, and we'll jump into line-by-line budget.
All right. Well, so I don't miss anything, I guess I will do it word by word. The mission of the town clerk's office is to uphold the integrity of the town's democratic process, to maintain and preserve our public records, and to act in the best interest of the town and the Commonwealth by providing efficient, innovative, and quality services in a fair and impartial manner to all. Often considered the doorway to local government, which we definitely are. Everyone walks in the building and goes to the left. The town clerk's office serves as the central information point for the public community, as well as other departments, boards, and committees. The town clerk is the chief election official, the official keeper of the town seal, and the town's oath book, the registrar of vital records, and is responsible for the maintenance, preservation, and disposition of all town records. The town clerk's office conducts the annual town census and, in conjunction with the board of registrars, registers voters and conducts all local, state, and federal elections. The town clerk is also responsible for the recording of all actions of town meeting and maintains the municipal code, which is the general bylaws. The clerk's office records and issues certified copies of a variety of records, including birth, death, and marriage certificates. The office also issues several licenses and permits: marriage licenses, dog license, business certificates, and raffle and bazaar permits. Achievements for this past year: that we survived all the elections and all the ballots that we mailed out. For those of you that know our office, it's just Barbara and I, and we have a few senior volunteers that come in through the senior tax rebate program, but we did mail out over, there is a typo in there, a very big one. It says 842, actually it was 5,043 that we put together and mailed out of vote by mail ballots, and an additional 203 for absentee voters. And assisting, this one is correct, over 7,000 residents that came in and actually voted early in person here at the office. We completed training and the implementation with our workers for the poll pads, registered 211 births, 150 deaths, 87 marriages, and 1,267 dogs. And through all of this, we were still able to attend many trainings on elections and keep up with our state ethics and Mass General Law seminars that we've taken.
Is that new dogs, or is that every dog in the town?
Every dog. Not every dog. Definitely not every dog.
Re-registered.
Yeah, that's pretty average, I guess, for us.
I was going to say if that was all new in this year. But
yeah, that would be pretty impressive. We do make phone calls when we can, and we send out postcards, because when animals are go to the vet and they get their rabies shots, we get back the immunization reports, and then if residents don't come in and we have volunteers, we do try to reach out and call and to do that. The goal for this year is to continue the preservation of our town records. And we have been trying desperately to update our state ethics and town database that we have. We do have a volunteer that comes in through the rebate program to help us with that, but we're kind of stealing her to work on help to mail all the ballots we had to mail out. And, yeah, that's about it.
Well, thank you for
Is that
putting
good?
this together. Not only does it benefit us, but it also benefits our vast online audience that watches these
Gotcha.
to better understand, what each department does for the town. So thank you for that.
Can you just, like, the preservation process of town records, what is that?
We have records that go back to 1850, and we send them to a company who, they're called Co-File, and they help us to preserve them.
And where, do they house them?
Yes.
Oh, okay. And how did, like, are we paying for storage space for that? How does that work?
Well, they're in the vault.
Okay.
Yeah, we don't pay. I mean, we pay to have it done, but they stay in the vault. You can
The-
come by anytime.
So they're
In
here?
our vault, yeah.
Yeah, okay, all right.
Yeah, anytime you'd like to come by. They are kind of neat to see. so.
Yeah.
So we can lock Paul in the vault? We can lock Paul in the vault?
No, that's up to you.
Sure you get that in the minutes.
So now we would just jump into the line-by-line budget section.
Okay.
If you just want to talk to us about any changes or, line by line through the expenses, and then we'll present any questions that we might have.
We're very grateful that, under the postage, that doesn't show up anymore, where we spend so much money on that, that's going to be combined. But there really are no any dramatic changes in that. Do you want me to read each line? or
No, I
okay.
mean, we're seeing the same things.
Yeah. Staffing and such will not be as high, obviously, because we don't have any early voting in-house to staff. And I have my figures from last year. It was about $37,000 that we paid for the staff that when people come in, and some of you guys come in and early voted, it's very expensive.
We'll see that go back in next year's round.
Yeah,
Do we get reimbursed from the state for any of that, or
part of it.
part of it?
And they let us know how much. Like, I have to give them everything that we spent, and then they have whatever formulas they have, and they'll let us know. It's not a lot,
Okay.
yeah.
Andrew, can I just, is this temporary help in the elections?
Yes.
Right, so it's salaries and wages, but there's full-time, part-time, and then there's, this line is temporary? Okay.
Yes. That's the figure that I just spoke of, how, yeah.
And this is more a question for the salary increases. I notice a lot of 4%. Is that sort of was that a town-wide decision, or is it?
No, I think you're seeing that because in the past, we didn't include the stipend numbers in there.
Right, there's
So-
a statutory stipend that clerks get based on the number of residents in town, and now we're including that in the budget.
So, yeah, the direction has been, along with most of the contractual obligations, is like 2%.
Okay.
Where did we have that in previous years?
It wasn't being paid.
Or it would have just been in another, probably in the expense line, or somewhere on, as another salary line.
And I guess this goes for all the presentations, Andrew. Are the actuals actual as, what are they actual of what date? Like, we had that issue the last meeting, that the actuals weren't as of...
So, for most other departments, that's not going to be an issue. For health insurance, there were some expenses that were going to be paid in '23, but are charged back to '22, so you won't see that. But this is actual '22.
So the 4 presentations that we're gonna see tonight, though the actuals are, we're not gonna see any adjustments?
Correct.
After tonight, okay.
Does the committee have any other questions? Thank you.
You're welcome. And if I could just also say too, the census went out last week.
Oh, I filled it out.
Thank you. Did we get it back yet?
I mailed it.
It's on its way.
Yeah.
So we have a box in the town hall, and we also have a box at Trukey's and Abington Savings. We have them too, if it's easier for people to drop them off there.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
And I threw the dog thing out, the dog rate. The little bottom section. I don't have a dog though.
Oh, okay, I was just gonna say, what do you do with the dog?
He's gonna get one of the 1,200 new dogs for next year.
Yeah, I have chickens though. I don't know. All right, next up we'll have inspectional services.
Sounds like that's right up to me.
I think you need a lot of chickens for it to be there. You need at least 2 acres of land?
I only get 6.
Good evening,
All
my
right,
name is Chris Carmichael, I'm the building commissioner. I was appointed in July this year, so I'm happy to be here and grateful for the opportunity. New guy. So basically, as the building commissioner, I enforce the building codes, appointed by the state, licensed by the state, appointed to a town. I am the authority having jurisdiction on every structure within the municipality, somewhere between 8,000 and 9,000 structures. We oversee plumbing, gas, electrical, mechanical, handicap accessibility, and we deal with federal laws as well, federal floodplain. Some 20,000 pages of codes and documents to review prior to any permit issuance. So there's a lot going on. So we have a large staff, one of the largest within the town hall, and we're just trying to maintain a level service. Main priority for us. Over the past couple of years, a lot of this has been implemented prior to my arrival, was in the online services, the large plotter scanner that's been used to scan in a lot of the documents in the town. Those are some of the other things that have been brought in. What we look to do is implement a townwide GIS service moving forward. So that's what we're working with the assessors and we had interviewed a couple of vendors. We're looking to do that. So everybody can log on to one GIS and have multiple layers and look at everything from zoning to floodplain to wetlands and zoning districts, voting districts, you name it, we can put it on there. So that's one of the big things that we're looking at coming up in the next year. Did you want me to go through each line item?
Yeah, so I would focus on where there are any big changes.
So some of the bigger changes were the salary. We were in a transition year in '22, so you have my salary that's been included in that. And then you went to an online permitting system that needed a tablet with a large telephone bill, cellular service to those. So that's part of the increase as well. So those are the two biggest items. Other than that, it's pretty level where we were. And then the DocuWare for the online storage is a big number. We've actually found a way to reduce that, and we hope to implement that shortly as well.
So what do you anticipate that reduction to be from the?
About 90%.
Wow, okay. So you're only gonna be looking at the proposed?
About $1,000 if another vendor takes on the online permitting, but again, that's another discussion for another night, so.
Any of these positions new?
My position is the newest. Most of the other positions were established. We did let go one part-time local that is no longer with the town. But no, we've maintained the same staffing level.
But is it new, or is it just the position was restored?
The position was relinquished when I came on to take over the department, so I didn't need two locals. I kept one and released the other.
Yeah, the building commissioner, we had a 1-year hiatus.
Right, okay. Well, we've had that position before.
Yeah.
It's not new, okay.
But it wasn't in last year's budget? Or it wasn't in the year before, or?
I think it was probably last year's.
There was a year that it was
at a
not
reduced,
in,
yeah.
but
Looks like
it had traditionally been in the budget. There was a combination, which is why it's entitled inspectional services and not building department as it
Right.
used to be.
It's more building department now, so.
So,
And for the actual inspectors, those are town employees? Was there a time when we were using contractors for some of those?
Not since I've been here, no.
there are, there has definitely been times where there are outside inspectors that were,
During emergency services, if we can't reach the appointed guy, then we go reach out to another town, and we do have a line item of about $1,500 to pay for that.
and I remember, and Barbara's not here to help my memory, but there was a revolving fund that
Yeah, we stopped that.
things were being paid out of before that we stopped.
Yeah.
2 years ago, maybe?
Yeah, it's probably 2 years. Yeah.
That, I think before that, it didn't, the salary item here really just looked like your position.
Yeah.
And everybody else was paid out of the revolving fund because
Okay.
they would do the work and the fees would come in and stuff. And it was not the most transparent way to fund the department.
It was an unusual model. I've not seen many communities that have it for that department, and we felt it was better to put the money into the general fund and be more transparent about the expenses.
So there are fees that cover some of these expenses.
We more than cover our expenses. We bring in 3 to 4 times on a good year, and usually double what our costs are.
Okay. How do we,
So
where do we
as-
see that?
Yeah.
The revenues to date, I have revenues coming in at about $277,000, July 1st to now,
Okay.
which covers our salaries to date, and then we should double that by the end of June. Even in a downturn with this economy, we're still bringing it in. We've been pushing for catching up on annual inspections and periodicals, so I've been going out and doing all the apartments, multifamilies. I'm becoming very familiar with the towns where those hadn't been done in previous years. We're catching up, and then those fees are being incorporated as well. So we're making it safer, and we're bringing in the income for that as well.
And where do the fees align with other towns around us? Because I know you said they,
Again, the fees were done prior to my arrival, but you are right where you need to be. You're not leaving any money on the table, and you're also not pushing people away where you're creating a black market, so to speak. If it's too expensive, they won't come in. So we're right where we need to be. We're making it easier for them to apply, being online. We've increased our level of services to the contractors. We're making it easier. We're giving them, when they show up at the window, we give them a complete flow chart. We give them all the answers they need right then and there. And then we're trying to have a quicker turnaround on permits. Scott has pushed for customer service to be my top priority, and that's where we're aiming for.
and when was the last time the fees were reviewed?
So it was just months ago. It was
Right, but
just
prior
to Chris coming here. Prior to that, it was quite some time.
Okay.
It was many years.
Is that something that needs to be kind of put on a schedule so we don't go?
It's good to check every few years ago or so, but right now, with the downturn, I wouldn't touch anything. I wouldn't increase it. Again, you're going to scare people away. So we
Right.
want people to come in, we want them to have it inspected, we want it to be safe. We're there for the consumer, we're there for the homeowner. I work for the people of Abington, so I go out and make sure that it's done. I go out daily and ensure benchmarks are achieved in the field, and that they're getting what they're paying for. So I go to bat for a lot of the homeowners in the town. If they're having problems with contractors, I go out and actually act as an intermediary between them and to get them to finish the job. I hold their license over their head, and I use that power pretty effectively. So I use my power as much as I can for the people of Abington.
I may have missed this, Chris. There's the proposed 293 is 30K higher. Is that a higher?
Again, that's my salary that was added on when you didn't have a commissioner. So we did release one part-time local, and that was added, and then my salary was,
Okay.
you're going to pay me more than you pay a local, as I'm a
That's
commissioner.
essentially the difference.
Yeah, absolutely.
Makes sense, thank you.
And you feel staffing-wise, you're where you need to be?
Yes, I'm right where I need to be. Scott set me up perfectly. He knows the business, he knows the trade. He was a commissioner in Duxbury for 14 years, so he knows what I need to do to get the job done, and he's given me the staff to do so. So I have everything I need to complete the job, and we're doing so effectively and efficiently.
Anybody else have anything?
So this definitely goes back to before you were in.
Mhm.
I don't remember what the
I hope I can answer it.
status was on this. We definitely had a project over several years where we were working on digitizing the old surveys, plots, maps, all of the documents. Did that get finished? Is that still in process? Do you know? If you don't-
It did not get finished. There's still a small amount left in the closet, and I had to give one of my admins to the health department recently, so that project's been sidelined temporarily, but with the downturn, we hope to pick it back up through the winter time.
Thanks, Chris.
Absolutely.
Anybody else from the committee? All right,
I would just like to make note that 90% of this budget is salary, and it would be even higher if we had the benefits, the retirement, and the town clerk was 91%. So,
Thank you.
this, for those keeping track at home, 90% of the budget is salary.
And again,
It's
we more
people.
than double or triple what we bring in.
The people doing a good job.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Appreciate that. Grateful.
Thanks, Chris.
Chris,
Thank you for your time, gentlemen.
Thank you.
And ladies.
All right, Veteran Services, please.
Good evening, everyone.
Good evening.
Let's start off with the mission statement.
Yes, please.
Thank you. The primary mission or responsibility of the Department of Veteran Services is to advise and assist veterans and dependents residing within the town of Abington. We provide outreach to promote state and federal benefits for which they may be eligible. Under Chapter 115 of the Massachusetts General Law, this office provides financial assistance to low-income veterans and their dependents. The areas of assistance include, but are not limited to, annuities, awards and medals, burial information, Chapter 115, clothing, medical assistance. If there's a way that we can take care of veterans, I'm going to do my best to do it. Achievements. So far, we have a monthly Veterans Breakfast thanks to Martin's Restaurant. Provides a lot of outreach within our community at no cost to the town. Free food drive. We gave away 4,000 pounds of food. South Shore Vocational School woodshop students are now required to make a shadow box as they go through the woodshop and donate them to this office for widows. We've had Korean War ceremony, award ceremonies, Purple Heart Town, Memorial Day, Vietnam ceremonies. We had the 68th annual Tri-Town Veterans Day Parade in Whitman. We have a Tell Your Story where we're partnering with the Abington High School students to interview veterans and spread it throughout the community. And then South Shore Horticulture and Landscape Construction Program will now clean up the Veterans Lot of Mount Vernon twice a year prior to Veterans Day, Memorial Day, so we can relieve the volunteers who have been working so hard at doing it with just a few of them for so many years. And then, of course, VA claims, which is my primary job and responsibility. We had 82 VA claims that were completed, disability benefits, burial bonuses, etc. My goals for the Veteran Services are to get a new Veteran Services that sits up to speed. Martha has been fantastic. She is currently spending a month in Kenya, visiting some family, so I'm looking forward to her return. I'd like to create more outreach in any way possible through the Senior Informer, through the for low-income veterans to promote awareness of the Chapter 115 program because we still have a long ways to go. I'd like to increase outreach for state and federal benefits by attending more Founders Day and Oktoberfest celebrations and working with different partners in the community for promotion and advertisement, and then follow up on disability claims someday. Any questions?
How many veterans are there in the town, do you know?
Currently, we have approximately 1,000 registered veterans, but that number is probably significantly higher. Any other questions?
As a part of that awareness and outreach, can you explain what Chapter 115 is?
I certainly will. Let's see. Just get that a little bit. So Chapter 115 is under Massachusetts General Law, Chapter 115, and we provide financial assistance to help with housing, food, medical reimbursement for low-income veterans and their dependents or widows who meet the criteria of the 200% federal poverty level. So I'll get into that a little more once I get to that budget. That's okay, man?
Yep, definitely.
Any other questions? Wonderful. Personal services. I don't think there's anything to add with that unless anyone has any questions. Salaries, same thing for myself. No questions to add, or nothing to add. Wonderful. All right. So education does not apply. Postage does not apply anymore. Cell phone, there is no change on the telephone budget. License and support, I just went up a small cost for the Vetrospect program, which is what we use to file VA claims. Office supplies was increased a little bit because we have another person and we're going to be moving offices here this year. Subscriptions, no change. Uniforms changed just a small amount because again, we have, I think it was $50 for additional employee. The big one on here, I think, that I've added this year is the other supplies for $1,000, and that's what I'm looking to change a little bit. And this is going to be modified from the veterans, the holiday budget. And I'd like to try something a little different. So I went to a couple of different events, the Oktoberfest and the Abington Celebrates events, and I was able to go and put out a tent, and the results were good. But I was handing out free VA giveaways and pens, and it would be very helpful to be able to have Abington Veteran Services advertisement gear out there. Any questions on that at all? Wonderful. Travel also increased. Again, the hotels alone, everything's increasing. We have another person. The Veterans Aid budget. The Veterans Aid budget stays the same. Any questions on that with Chapter 115?
What is the reimbursement rate?
So the reimbursement rate for Chapter 115 is at 75%. I'm keeping it at no change. It'll increase again someday. We've kept it the same since it does go back to the general fund for whatever isn't used. When I started, we had 19 Chapter 115 clients, and then we got down to 12 at one point prior to Martha's arrival as the Veterans Assistant. And we're currently at 15, and I have 2 others that will be up to 17 soon. So these numbers will increase now that I have more help and more ways to get out in the community, because the need is there. The need is definitely there.
So can you explain that in a little more detail so the state reimburses part of the cost of the operation?
So Chapter 115 is a state program that they put out. They, with towns that have a certain number of minimum residents, they require a full-time VSO. As the population increases, they have more of a need. And if they meet the federal poverty level, the 200% federal poverty level, and they are a veteran or a dependent that was honorably discharged, depending on how much they make, and depending on how close they are to the federal poverty level, depends on how much assistance they get. So if somebody only gets $900 a month, they're going to get a little more assistance than someone who just meets their requirements. So anybody who qualifies, if they have prescriptions, medical premiums like Blue Cross Blue Shield and all those things that as we get older we have to pay, regardless if we're working, the state reimburses those 100% back to the veterans. on the widows. So it's a huge relief for those who are in the lower poverty level.
Gotcha. So does the state reimburse any portion of the operations of your actual department though? Like, do we get anything back from the
Yes.
state? We don't?
So everything we pay out for Chapter 115 benefits the state.
Oh, okay, okay.
The benefits part.
The benefits.
Right.
part,
Benefits
but the
will come
actual-
back.
The benefits for the
Just the farm.
residents, the state
Are reimbursed.
reimburses at least a percentage. of
Yes,
those.
75%.
The running of the department, the town.
The town exclusively? Okay, gotcha. Thank you.
Any other questions on Chapter 115?
Just as far as, and this might not be a fair question, but it's like, if you, there's 15 under chapter 115, how many do you think, are there other residents out there that could be taking advantage of 115 and they may not be aware of it, you haven't been able to do outreach? I mean,
A lot more than what we have now.
Okay.
Stoughton, for instance, had, I mean, I know they're a larger town, I think they have 28,000 residents, but they have 60 Chapter 1, I think they're up to 66 now, Chapter 115. They have a full-time admin assistant, and she takes care of all the Chapter 115s, and the veterans agent is able to get out in the community and find out where the need is, and that's
Right.
the only way that I'm aware is to get out there and be in the community.
Yeah,
We're putting it out there through the Senior Informer, through social media, through the towns, different avenues, but there's definitely a need. We just have to get out there and find it. And it's more time spending over at the senior center, that's probably where a lot of it is. But even for our younger veterans, you know, when they're unemployed, if they're out of a job and they're low on funds, they can come and work with our office, and they have to show that they are, every week, they're turning job searches to myself, and we go through and verify them when we get them back on track to get employment. So they can receive a significant amount of money for veterans that can still work.
okay.
It's a huge benefit program.
Adam, do we offer anything to support our veterans in getting to the VA? Like getting over to the VA?
The VA does have a few ride share programs, but they're extremely difficult to count on. And one of the unfortunate things about those is once the veterans get dropped off, let's say they have to go to Jamaica Plains, and they get dropped off. So they spend an hour or so at the VA, and then they have to make a phone call back to, you know, the ride, and it could be 2 or 3 hours that they're stuck there.
Yeah.
You know, whether they're in their 70s or 80s or 90s, whether they're getting these rides.
Who gives those rides?
There's a couple different transportation companies. The DAV helps with the transportation they have, but there's limited capacity because of, you know, they don't offer a wheelchair. So the VA has another contracting service that does offer a wheelchair, but it's hard to get in because the need is out there, and then they have to also provide justification from their doctor. One of the someday goals that I don't want to get into right now, but we will since you brought it up. We recently had a vehicle donated from the, I don't have it on me, but from the town of Rockland. I just happened to be in the right place at the right time. That vehicle is in transition of being donated to the town of Abington. And the someday goal will be to get volunteers and to utilize the tax work-off program for the Veterans Tax Work-Off Program, and to have a hopefully full-time rideshare program free for veterans and widows here in Abington. I'm getting mentored by the DAV in a couple weeks. I'm sitting down with a veterans agent in Braintree who's done a couple successful ride programs before to try to get mentored and just get myself smarter. But that is my goal, is to someday utilize that vehicle to be able to provide transportation to veterans and widows who need it in Abington.
Yeah, so Adam helped me with my claim fairly recently, and I only asked that question because I've had to go back and forth to the VA constantly, and I can do it, but, you know, there are definitely people who can't.
It's a major problem here in Abington and in other communities as well. It's difficult for the veterans, it's difficult for the widows, or not the widows, the spouses, who oftentimes their full-time job is to transport back and forth these veterans who are having many significant problems back and forth to the VA multiple times a week, and they can't do it, and they're not taking care of themselves, and it's a huge need.
Well, it's exciting to hear about the donated vehicle.
It is. It's
We
a long,
can't,
long road ahead, but
For the people who don't have mobility issues, like, could we use Uber or what?
the what?
Uber, Lyft, anything like that? Or no?
It gets expensive. I have a couple other options, that the VA recommends, but $130 for a ride for a medical appointment isn't something that everybody can just afford.
What about the T? Any options there? Is that ride service for?
It is, but a lot of especially the Vietnam veteran population, and Korean War veterans, it's difficult. I mean, they're having significant reactions from Agent Orange, exposures. Driving to JP or out of Abington is significant and dangerous sometimes.
I think the bat does pick up at Walmart in Abington, and eventually will make its way.
It's eventually.
Yeah.
But what happens is because they have bad experiences sometimes, or they hear about somebody else who got left in the VA for 2 or 3 hours, what they end up doing is not going to their medical appointments. They're not taking care of themselves like they should be. I think we can help bridge that gap.
Forgive me, I missed and you said this. Have you talked with Suzanne at the senior center at all about?
So I have worked with them, and the vehicle that they use is fantastic. They do Meals on Wheels. They utilize that vehicle
Use it
a lot.
So I don't expect they have a lot of availability, but it could be something that.
And there's difficulties with
Even
the
if it's
wheelchair.
just-
Well,
even
the
if it's
driver,
just-
actually, the person who drives that van has other duties at
Okay.
the senior center also.
Okay. I was gonna say, even if it's just learning how she coordinates things,
Absolutely.
does that of the.
I mean, this vehicle that we have, once it's ready, and it's gonna be probably about a year, because there's a few things that we need to work out, and obviously, I need to get to as far as volunteers and getting myself smarter, but this vehicle was made for wheelchair transportation. I mean, you push the button and the wheelchair ramp goes out 6 to 10 feet. There's no passenger seat. It's made for wheelchair transportation. There is a bench seat in the back, but it locks in. It's an
Nice.
incredible
That's
opportunity.
great.
It's only got 17 or 18,000 miles on it.
Committee, have anything else for Adam? All right, thanks, Adam.
Thank you very much.
Adam?
All right, Water Enterprise. Come on up, please.
Hey everyone. I'm Crystal Cameron, the new superintendent, so I'm a new girl. Just started in July, so thank you for having me. Thank you for the opportunity. So this is a little new to me, but I think we did okay. So I'm just gonna kind of run through what we wrote up for the mission statement, but just a lot of people don't know, but we do feed water to over 33,000 residents, but it's not just in Abington and Rockland. We feed water to Hanson residents, Pembroke, Hingham, and Whitman. So, and then the treatment plants that we have are in 3 different towns as well. So we have a treatment plant, a surface water treatment plant in Pembroke, one in Rockland, and then a well field in Abington. So, you know, we need an extensive crew in order to maintain that, those properties. We also have 3 tank sites. One's a booster station, Lincoln Street in Abington. We have the Chestnut Street elevated storage tank in Abington. And then we have a Rice Ave storage tank in Rockland. So that's where and then we also have clear wells at the treatment plants as well. So we have a 2 million gallon storage tank in Rockland as well, and a little under 1 million in Pembroke. So we got a lot going on in the water department, but you know, it's maintained when we have some good licensed operators, which we do, which is great. So our goal is to provide reliable, you know, water service to the public for firefighting, consumption, showering, whatnot, and all that good stuff. So, and just to kind of go over what we do on an everyday, basis, year, whatnot, we make all of our water main repairs in-house. We don't sub that out. We have guys that are on call. They wake up 2 o'clock in the morning, Christmas Day, they're there fixing a water main break. We don't sub that out. That can be extremely costly. So, the crew that we have is reliable, dependable, something to be proud of. They also do the paving. That's something that we picked up over the last few years. So that's really great. Saves us a lot of money. So really, we got the equipment. We just actually purchased a trailer for the asphalt roller that we have in order to transport that. So we were transporting it a little bit on the difficult side. So now we can do that a little bit easier for them. So they're happy with that. We also we pay for leak detection, so we have to do that every 2 years according to DEP, but we do it a little bit more often in order to kind of tighten things up. Especially when we have a leak that we just can't find, but we know it's there based on trending and water consumption. We know it's there, so we'll call in leak detection to try to pinpoint that. We also do all of our backflow testing, so we'll pay for that to be done. We used to do that in-house a long time ago, but it's just a lot to have that on staff, and you have to do backflow testing for every single backflow that's in town, so we sub that out, but we still have to pay for that. We do all of our billing, all of the liens in-house. Like I mentioned before, we have a fully staffed treatment facilities. We run 3 shifts during the summer at 2 of the facilities, so you're talking, 12 to 12, pretty much a lot of the times. And then Myers Ave is also staffed half the day over there as well. So we get a lot going on in treatment. And then, it's really hard to find people that are actually competent to work in the department, licensed, but we're doing really great with that too. We pay for all of our chemicals that we use to treat the water, which is very costly. And then, we make all of our in-house, treatment repairs and things like that, which is a lot of moving parts. We do our ASR, our CCR, which is the annual statistical report to Mass DEP. It's basically explains to them everything that we use, what we do, what we pump, all the chemicals down to the last drop, everything that we do, we report that to them. We do that in-house. A lot of other departments sub that out. We don't. We also do our CCR, which is our Consumer Confidence Report, and we coordinate all meetings with DEP and EPA, and we also maintain our sludge removal facility, which is, it's pretty in depth, so there's a lot going on. But we had a lot, we have some great achievements that we've done over the past couple years. I'm sure everybody is well aware that we landed that $13 million loan in each town. We were really happy with that SRF loan, 0% interest. It was really great to get that for the PFAS removal. We received a $56,000 asset management grant, which is great. That's going to help us, organize the department, make sure that we're running efficiently and things are working well, and, help us pinpoint things that we can improve. I am waiting to hear back about the water rate study grant. Still waiting, but I'm hoping that we land that, and I'm pretty hopeful. I hope we got it. And then we also got the MassWorks grant for $2.24 million over at Myers Ave, which was great. And then so our goals, I would say the most important thing that the water department is going to focus on is conservation. Improving conservation is going to be huge as far as water supply, tightening that up. So we implemented a new application for when builders come in and they want to develop. Before, that wasn't being tracked at all. So we would just give water out, and based on the permits that we only have a certain amount of water to give out. That was never being tracked. It was like writing checks and not knowing if they were cashed or not. It was, when I got in there, it was really uncomfortable as far as, what we had left, what was still not being used, but still, approved. So we're working on tightening that up and cleaning it up and figuring out exactly what we have going on. So the conservation is going to be big as far as, encouraging development, but making sure we still have a good supply. And then another thing that I think it needs to improve is communication with the public and transparency. So that's another thing that we're going to focus on. Any questions?
When you say conservation, do you mean individual conservation or, new construction conservation?
So with the new application, what we're encouraging is when a developer comes in and they say, I'm going to put X amount of homes in with X amount of bedrooms, we do what's called a no net gain policy. So you per bedroom, you use about 110 gallons per day. If you're going to do that, you have to go out and either pay a fee per bedroom, which is $1,100 per bedroom is what we charge, or you have to go out in the community and show us, and we have to inspect it and approve it, where you saved us 110 gallons per day. So you can go out and replace leaky toilets or old toilets or urinals or, put aerator, anything that you want to do that we can improve, that we can also inspect and make sure it was done. Most people just pay the fee. That fee goes in an account, and we're going to do a huge advertisement and to the communities, both Abington and Rockland. And we're going to say anybody that wants your toilet replaced, we'll buy the toilet, we'll have the contractor come out, we'll replace it for you, and at no cost to you, as long as there's nothing else you want done on your end, that's fine, but we'll do the toilet and everything and hopefully save some water. So it's very slow, but over time you do see conservation. It's great. So
There's no public education program to get people to understand.
Right, so that will be coming out.
It seems like you have an endless supply of water.
Yeah, that's true, yep. And when I got in, in July, it was quite an eye-opener as far as, watching it actually up until July was a little bit of an eye-opener for me, so. Trending it, I think, is important, and making sure that we don't write checks, water checks, if you will, that we can't cash. So it's important. Anybody have any questions?
What's the timeframe on the PFAS project?
So we're looking at about 2 years on that, but so what I've been told is we're going to go out to bid in the spring, and then construction should start by the fall. Right now we're in the design phase, so the DEP is going to come back and give us some comments. They're going to say, okay, we want you to change this a little bit or whatever, and then SRF has also their opportunity to come back and say stuff too. So depending on if they have issues a little bit with our design, it might slow things down a tiny bit, and we'd have to doctor that. But once the design phase is over, then we go to bid, then we go to construction. They're hoping construction will be by the winter of next year after that. So, but based on supply due to COVID and everything, we're not really sure if that's going to get pushed back or anything. So we'll have to really track it pretty well.
And then what is the rate study?
The rate study is based off of what neighboring community, what we have for to maintain in our department, and what neighboring communities are also charging that are, as far as rates go for the water department and water usage. It would have to be similar departments to our department, so departments that might have 2 surface water treatment plants and a well treatment plant, and a fully staffed distribution crew that goes out and fixes their own mains and things like that. So they compare our departments to other departments and kind of judge where our rates should be. So I was waiting for that to come in so we can actually get some good data on that as well. The last one that we had done was in 2012, and you should really do one every 5 years at the most. So in 2012, nothing was really done with that study. So I think that's not really a good thing. I think we should be kind of taking that.
So we don't know where that's going to land in terms of rates going up?
When I looked at the study that was on this thumb drive, it said that right around where we just increased the rates, which we did, I'm not sure if you're aware of that, we just increased the rates, they'll be going up again in April. We're right around where they said we should be right now. So, but I'm not sure what the new rate study is going to say. I mean, you could be looking at a tiered system. I've always wanted to look into that as well, based on if you, use X amount of 100 cubic feet, you fall in this bracket and you're charged at this rate, and then if you go over, then, you get charged a different rate. We could be looking at something like that, which could help relieve some of the burden. There's all kinds of things you can do with the rates in order to, help things a little bit better. Any other questions?
Where are we at currently with our PFAS levels?
We are still in violation, and we conceded in the last quarter, just because the amount of money we spend on those postcard mailers, it's about $10,000 every single time we mail out, so we knew we weren't going to pass. So we just said, we'll take and the DEP agreed with us. They said, you need some tiny little number in order to pass, and it just wasn't going to happen. So they were like, just concede and say that you're in violation, do one mailer for the whole quarter instead of doing, monthly mailers or whatever. So we're still in violation. We're still under 30. We're, right around in that 25, mark area, but it's just, we're right on the cusp.
This is something that we've talked about in previous years with the department, but I think a lot of people don't really understand like where the PFAS levels are, and what the EPA, the federal, and what the state are. I think it might be good to explain a little bit of that, and then kind of where we're at in regards to those. I agree, yeah. So the way that it works with water is the federal government sets the limits, the EPA. They're with everything in drinking water. And then the states have the right to be more strict with those regulations, but they cannot be, they can't just say, we don't want to pay attention to the EPA. But they can always be more strict if they choose to do so. With the PFAS regulations, that's what happened in January of 2022. So we were at 70 parts per trillion with the federal government. We were doing fine, we were passing. We actually got a non-detect, which is because they couldn't even test low enough to get to where we, to read the levels. Then they got new technology, they dropped the levels to 20 parts per trillion in Massachusetts only. So there's other states that are at different levels. Some states are still with the feds, and they're at the 70 parts per trillion. Massachusetts is at 20. There's some states that are lower than 20 because they have their own rationale. Mass is at 20. Mass almost was at 25. I was talking to some DEP folks, and they said, oh, we almost chose 25, and we were right there, but we understand, we recognize that there is an issue, and we're going to treat it. It's just, we're right on the line, and every single time we send out these postcards, we know that we're upsetting everybody, and we're upset too, because this whole thing has blown up in our face, and we really, honestly, we're not given a lot of time to rectify the problem. I've never really, in my career, which hasn't been that long, it's 18 years, but I've never seen the DEP move this fast on a regulation. There's always been a comment period. Not that there wasn't a comment period, but I mean, it's usually drawn out a long time. They moved so fast on this regulation. They gave us hardly any time to remedy. And when you change a treatment plant, you change the chemical dosages, or you even go from one chemical because you find out another chemical works better, or you find a filter, different type of filter media works better, or a mixer works better. You have to go through this whole process of demonstration, piloting, paperwork, showing them how it's done, and they will not just let you just change anything. And we're talking about designing a whole treatment plant now. So, I mean, it's going to be a process, and I just hope that everybody can just bear with us until we can get it done.
I
I'm
recommend,
looking forward to it.
There was the town manager's corner on YouTube, is
It
it?
was a great 14 minutes of,
Yeah, with, and a consultant that I happen to know.
Tara, yeah.
And it was very informative and very well done.
Thank you.
I
Yeah.
recommend to anyone who's interested to take a look.
I must say that I went with Tara, our engineer from Weston and Sampson, and we went up to, and then my other colleague, Tom, we went up to Pease, New Hampshire, where, I'm not sure if anybody's familiar with it, but in my mind, that's where this kind of really blew up the most, the in the very beginning. And their water treatment plant is right next to an airport. And they are dealing with PFAS levels in the 2500s. So, I mean, in there, it's horrible to say that 2,500, you know, but in my mind, it's the best case scenario because the airport's right there and they can say, that's the source, pay for it, and they did. So they were able to get the funding, they didn't have to do any of the stuff that we're doing right now. We do have lawyers, we did sign on with a lawyer to find out, you know, to do the investigation and try to figure out who's responsible for this, but it was really great to go up to that treatment plant and see the design because it's going to be pretty similar to what we're doing. Just theirs is a groundwater treatment plant and ours is surface, but we're going to be implementing a lot of the same technology. So it was great to get their opinions, to doctor their, you know, say, you know, they said this didn't work, we're going to change our, you know, design a little bit, and it was good to see how it worked. So it was a good field trip. But, I mean, we're fortunate that we're not dealing with 2,500. We just don't have the funding. We can't easily point at somebody. I would love to be able to do that right now.
He's used to be a military thing, right?
Yes.
Yes.
Yep. So there were people getting really sick up there in the 2,500s, yeah.
The National Guard. I've drank a lot of that water.
Yeah, unfortunately, the firefighting foam and all that with the airport base, like, it's just, you know, that's where it comes from. It's a huge source. So that is what we have going on. Any other questions about PFAS? I'm pretty well versed in it at this point.
And again, we will replay that episode of Town Meeting just closed.
Does anyone have an idea where this comes from for us?
There is.
Other than this airport right here?
There is an idea, yep, and I've been told that it's probably best that I not say where, but I mean, it's pretty obvious where I think we all have an idea of where it's coming from. It's pretty local.
I assume it would be local, yeah.
I mean, I would rather not try to point the finger at somebody if I don't have the evidence. But yeah, it's pretty obvious where it's coming from. And the state actually came down and they've been taking water samples and some of the tributaries coming from this area that go right towards actually Myers Ave. So we have PFAS treatment at Myers Ave already because we stumbled upon it there. We were trying to get one of our wells online and they were like, well, before you do this, you have to do a flow test. We did the flow test, we did samples, and they were like, you have PFAS, this stuff called PFAS. And we were like, what's that? And they were like, well, you have a regulation, it's gonna be dropped come, I don't know, I think it was 5 months from now is when we were there at that time. And so we just shut the treatment plant down right away. And luckily, with a groundwater facility, you're able to remedy that problem a lot easier than a surface water treatment plant. So we have 4 big vessels packed with media. We just took the media out of one of the vessels and replaced it with media that this PFAS stuff responds to. It just doesn't, you know, at first when I heard about this stuff, I was like, oh, we can remove viruses, we can remove bacteria, we can remove, you know, all kinds of stuff from our water. This should be no problem. And they were like, oh no, it only likes certain types of treatment and you don't have it. So now you have to change your whole treatment plant to make it work. So we did that in Abington and it's working just great. So now we're gonna retrofit. So we took one of our filters out of service and made it into a GAC filter. So now what we would like to do with this 13 million it's part of it, is put that filter back online and then get 2 more GAC filters so we can go to full production over there. It's going to be a pretty good project. Now's the time to be a treatment operator. I'm kind of jealous, but.
And are those filters
I'm a little
available?
nerd.
Are those filters available?
That's another thing. So when this first started, they were really hard to find. They're even harder to find now. But we have people looking for them. We get notified when they find them. It's, you know, we have found them, but the second that we go to try to commit, they're gone. So in the beginning, I want to say that they were under $100,000 a vessel empty, and now they're over 3, easily 5, maybe. It's just it's out of control, the way that things have inflated. So, but we'll get it done. And, you know, the treatment plant in Abington, where we have the PFAS removal, we get none detected, so we know it works. And that's a positive, so. I just keep trying to look at the positives and move forward. There's really nothing that we did, you know, that, and I hope that residents understand that. It's just, we were just given this issue.
So you're saying the Abington water doesn't have the PFAS, but because it's a joint thing, you have to start sending those things out?
Yep. Yep, we are.
We've been
we are
saying
made to
that
do
a
it.
lot for a long time,
have,
specifically
yes.
to you.
And I'm just saying, maybe if we keep repeating it.
Yeah. It's true because we don't have, in the system, we don't have gates that, well, like gate valves that shut off and say this area of the system is isolated to just this treatment plant, and this area of the system is isolated to just this treatment plant. It's all open where hydraulically we know where the water goes from each treatment plant because we've had a hydraulic model done and we've done the water quality testing and we can tell because each, you know, water has characteristics, believe it or not. And so we know where the water goes on a typical day. The reason why the DEP makes us send out the letters to everybody is because if there's some catastrophic situation where a water main breaks and like it would have to be a pretty big water main to break and it changed the normal directionality of the water and the hydraulics, then someone might get water that they don't normally get, or it might be mixed instead of, you know, just getting the normal source, and we have to make sure that everybody's informed. So it's just covering all bases and being transparent as possible. So we just also didn't want anybody to get upset, like my neighbor, where do you draw the line, right? My neighbor got one, but I didn't, and, you know, we're still getting that anyways, even though we mail it out to everybody. It's difficult, but we do our best and we get hundreds of calls and we talk to everybody. So if anybody has questions, they're more than welcome to call, and we have a PFAS team that works on it, so. Yeah, trying to be as transparent as possible.
What's the likelihood that the town will be able to identify the source and have the evidence required to recoup some of the expense?
I think it's pretty good. I've talked to some DEP folks and they think it's pretty good, but I mean, I couldn't.
Right.
Yeah. I mean, I think it's pretty good because it's not really that far away from the treatment plant, but you never know.
Yeah.
You know. I would love to be in a situation where it was right next door, like Pease, but then you're dealing with people getting really sick, so it's kind of like, you know, which one's the better situation? I don't know. I wouldn't want people getting sick, so I guess being right on the line, it's just frustration that we're dealing with, more or less. I think everybody's frustrated at this time. So if anybody has any more questions, or we can move on. I tried to stay as conservative as possible with the budget, but given everything that I just went over, we do have some increases that I'm, you know, focusing on as far as the treatment plants go. Electricity, everybody knows that that's going up. I'm pretty concerned about that. We do use chemicals in water treatment, and contractually, we are in a contract with our chemical vendors. It locks us into a pretty good rate, but they do go up yearly. And so with that, I did the calculations out. It went up about 200 grand this year. So that's this coming year, I should say. That's where you will see the increase.
Is that intermunicipal?
Yep. Mm-hmm. That accounts for that there. And that's basically our joint budget in there, so that's the portion that Abington pays of the joint budget, so.
So unlike a lot of the budgets that we see for some of the newer people on the committee, where water has fees coming in that pay for their budget, the town puts our chunk into the intermunicipal budget, and so we have one big line for most of, that we see from most of the budget.
Right.
So does that include salaries?
Salaries,
It does,
yes.
yeah, small
Yeah.
portion. I can tell you what salaries went up. It went up only $44,000 this year.
So what's the net impact to the town for the water department?
For the loan,
No, for, when you think about sources and uses for the water department, you bring in fees and then we get salary on it. What's the net impact to the town? Because we just had the inspectional services saying that they're making money for the town, they're covering their costs. What's the water department's position?
So we are, right now, we're not really making a ton of money at this moment right now. Like I mentioned before, we just went up in September. Well, I mean, we're making money, obviously, but we just went up in September to $6 per 100 cubic feet from 5. And the intent of that was to cover the PFAS loan. And then after that, we're going up again in April to $8 per 100 cubic feet. And that should help us bring in more revenue as far as, inflation, and then actually starting to make money so that we can, chop away at some of our projects. But right now in the reserve for Abington, we have about $1.4 million from fiscal year '22. That's a rough estimate.
And what's that amount represent?
That's our free cash.
Okay. And what are we projecting for FY '24 as far as sources and uses, revenues and expenses?
So right now, I did like a rough estimate as far as, the couple of rate changes that we've had. So I did the best I could with that, and it looks like we're gonna land about $500,000 more than where we were last year. And then after that, it's just, with every dollar increase, we're projected, and now that's just based off of a 3-year average of what we've done before prior, because obviously we don't know exactly what we're gonna be bringing in. But with every dollar increase, we bring in $1,057,000 for revenue. So we're going up $3, so we should be bringing in about $3 million with that $8 increase.
And that all stays in
Their water account.
Andrew, do you have access to see that? How much they have in their account, free cash?
Yeah, I can pull those numbers.
I think it'd be helpful for any department that, has the ability to cover their costs, like inspectional services and water, or even the ambulance, for us to be able to see that as well, to Paul's point. We could in the future.
Sure.
So then just moving back to, I only went up, $1,000 for salary and wages, and that's really, it's not salary and wages for us, it's details really. So we were a little short this year. We can cover it. It's more of a whole item. It's not really itemized, so we were fine with the budget, but I would like to increase that by 1,000, just because I know they're probably gonna go up contractually, if not this year, sometime soon. So just $1,000 should cover that. I didn't go up on vehicle maintenance and repair. We were fine with that. Repair and maintenance, that's more, you're talking road repairs, things like that. So you gotta keep in mind that we're looking at, all those things that go into that. So, you're talking about maintenance and repairs, repair and maintenance. Okay, so you're talking about like parts and things like that. So that's all going up too. As far as like everything in our budget pretty much has gone up. Contract and labor, we pretty much stayed. We went up about 5,000 on that. But pipes and fittings, I only went up about 5,000 on that, and then road repairs, we went up 10. Just because the flow fill that we have to use and just the paving and things like that, it can be costly.
These expenses, they're part of the enterprise account, or is only the intermunicipal charges part of the enterprise account?
The whole thing.
Yeah, okay.
Mm-hmm.
Meaning that you cover it.
Right,
with
yep,
your
everything's
fees
covered by the
that's
department, yep.
Coming from the town.
And I imagine, Andrew, that's why postage is still here.
You're not touching that postage. PFAS notifications.
They can pay for that.
What are our other purchase services?
That we did not go up on, and
Went up up a lot last year.
Is that your consultant?
This year.
Yeah, that's engineering and legal and computer, like IT things. But, yeah. Then I just went up 5,000 on the fuel because I'm sure that, you know, I'm just accounting for the fuel going up, which we were notified that's going up as well. Honestly, like, none of this is really, any of the increases that we've done in the budget is really not salaries. It's all stuff that's inflated as far as, like, you know, chemicals and electricity, fuel, gas, all that, you know, the natural gas, pipes and fittings, and it's just, and really, if we didn't, I would be a little nervous about going into the next fiscal year without increasing that. You know, you're talking about employee benefits. I automatically just budget 5% for that as well, not knowing exactly where we're going to be with health insurance, but you're better off budgeting for an increase than not.
And I think we covered this last year, under the IT, you have systems in place for like the rate tracks that they control and.
Yep. Yep, we actually had an article out that we are working with them on the firewalls as we speak.
Okay.
But yeah, we took I believe it was 20,000 out for that, or it was 10, off the top of my head. But yeah, I have to think because we split it between Abington and Rockland, so I'm dealing with 3 budgets. But yeah, it's we're definitely dealing with that and making sure that that's all up to par.
And do you have, does somebody come in and do pen test or a vulnerability scan on the phone?
We have an IT department that is really close with us in Rockland, and he comes in and we pay his company to come in and take care of all that for us.
Okay.
Yeah.
So does that get rotated at all, or how long have you been with this same firm?
We just use whatever the town of Rockland has used, so I think he's contracted by the town of Rockland, so he's an actual employee.
Okay, so they do their own penetration, you don't hire.
But we have to pay his company too, so it's almost kind of like we pay his company to do the monitoring of our system, but he'll come in and do like any kind of like repairs or anything like that we need, and we don't have to pay him.
But he's an employee of the town of Rockland.
Yeah.
So we don't have anybody outside of this to actually come in and test that, you know.
Well, his company does. They actually test. So he works for a company too, so he's associated with ICS. And ICS monitors and tests and does all that for us. And then Gino works for Rockland, and he does all of the, you know, if you have a printer issue or you can't sign in or something like that, he'll come in and help. But we don't have to deal with paying for that. But they deal with like our firewalls, our servers, our Barracuda, stuff like that. All of that stuff. And then we also do like our ethics things through them, and all of the security, like questionnaires and things like that, like tests.
Okay, and how long have we been with ICS? How long have they been with ICS?
They've been with ICS for quite a while, I would say. I can get more information on that and ask Doug.
Okay, thanks.
From Rockland.
Anything else from the committee?
Crystal, do you have warrant articles? Are you going to have warrant articles?
We will, yeah. I'm going to be very conservative this year. As I was telling Scott, I just want to see how things go with this first year, it being my first budget. And also with the loan, I'm not 100% yet on when we need to start doing those payments. There's been some things, I'm actually supposed to be meeting with the SRF chief and the engineer to figure out more information. The paperwork's still not even done yet. So I don't want to, we do have the money, but I don't want to be too aggressive with the articles. I think we're going to just stick with what we've always done, our meters, hydrants. You know, we need sludge removal. We do usually a treatment plant article, things like that, but nothing like extravagant this year. I think 25 we'll do some, we'll look at some vehicles maybe, but not this year. We have some, trucks that are getting pretty old, so we don't need to start sinking money into trucks if it's not gonna be worth it. I think we can make it another year though. We'll push it.
Anything else from the committee? All right, thank you, Crystal.
Thank you.
Thanks, Chris. It wasn't too bad.
Have a good night.
Thank you.
All right, next we have on the agenda to review the minutes from December 7th and December 21st. I did not give you guys a week to review, I apologize for that. But I think I gave you a couple days to review, so if you have, great. We can discuss anything here, or does anybody need time to review the minutes as they were sent to you in the email?
I just noticed there were a couple spots, my name was spelled wrong in one spot in the December 7th minutes. Marty's had a capital L as part of his name down there. I don't know if we needed to change those or.
Does he not have a capital L?
I don't know, I thought it was.
I should look at the original agenda, that him with a capital L, but.
It all ties back to me, I think.
Just, if someone can let me know, I'm happy to
And
update that.
I just had a couple, I was at that meeting. I'm not listed.
Which is not being listed.
I know, it's, yeah. I know you're sending me a message, but I'll just keep coming back, sorry.
You must have been really quiet at that meeting.
That was the other thing, I didn't know whether Greg was there or not on the 7th.
What meeting?
December 7th.
Yeah, he's here.
Well, I'm always here. Just lurking in the background.
And outside of those small changes, I thought these meeting minutes were fantastic. Kelly, oh, the other thing that I had a question on was, Kelly, you're not listed anywhere.
I am just here, I don't know. I don't know how that works.
I don't know where you're supposed, I don't remember when
Guest.
Deb was.
Guest. You want me
Guest,
under guest?
probably, but I just figured it would probably be right to have you listed there since you're here,
I messed myself up on myself as a guest. I don't know, I have Marty and, I have.
Let me check
I
the,
don't have.
Yeah, we don't have Greg on the 7th.
All right, I'll update those and resend them for sure.
Yeah,
I mean, all of the content, the actual content of it was
I mean, we can vote on them with those.
fantastic. Yeah, I agree.
I did have on whatever, it was a page, it said Abington is at 1.6 of the town's value compared to the normal limit of 5%. I don't think it's the normal limit, isn't it a cap?
Which,
So we should probably, point of order, we should probably
Yeah.
take each of the minutes separately and discuss.
Yeah, this is December 7th.
Okay.
The one that I wasn't at.
I'll make a motion to approve the December 7th meeting minutes as amended.
Right.
Is there a second?
No, I got a question on them.
Yeah, we're going to discuss.
Second,
we have
yeah,
discussion.
Oh, all right.
All right, second, any discussion?
Yes.
Yes. All right, okay. I still don't understand then the flow of this, then why did I say earlier on that I was in here? Shouldn't I have waited?
We just let you do what you want, Paul.
Oh, yeah, I jumped the gun, all right, sorry
Yeah,
about that.
I started it, so.
All right.
blame me.
No, it compared to the normal limit, I don't know what normal, I thought the cap was, there's like a cap of 5%.
Yeah, so there's two caps, 5% for most things, and you can go up to 10% with voter approval for specific projects. So I don't know how we want to phrase that.
Yeah, because calling it a normal limit, I don't know what normal limit, I mean, if it was a limit,
Where in the minutes are we?
it was, it was around the long-term debt,
6.
yeah.
You can remove the word normal.
Remove normal. Okay, good.
I see it. Mr. Nokon gives a brief explanation on debt, and it's, I don't know page numbers, but it's right at the bottom of page.
I see that the middle of page 6, right under total 44.6 million, Abington is at 1.6% of the town's total value.
And Kelly, we could add page numbers too.
Yeah, for sure.
I think that goes to the quality of these minutes. We haven't needed page
I
numbers.
know.
Certainly don't need them when we're the ones taking.
So what are we amending it, or editing it to, compared to the,
Andrew's suggestion was to take out the word normal.
okay, all right.
So for the December 7th, adding page numbers, adding Greg if we think he was there, Greg, were you there? Removing normal, and then confirming with Marty if it's the right spelling. And Matt, you said yours was spelled incorrectly.
And,
Paul.
yeah, there was one spot where my name had an extra H instead of an L. But, not a big deal.
Important stuff.
I just noticed it because it was my name, so. That was right above the 2B tax levy, approximately 65%.
I have to be there.
So do you need to amend your motion?
No, I said as amended.
Oh, okay.
I prepared for
Look at that.
amendments.
All right. Any other discussion? So the motion is to approve as amended the minutes from December 7th. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Motion passes.
Motion to approve the minutes for the December 21st
As amended.
meeting. I don't know if those ones need amending, but I'll say as amended.
I'll second.
So the motion is to approve the minutes from December 21st as amended if necessary. It was seconded.
Oh, yeah, we do need to add Kelly. So there's a slight amendment.
Marty spelled.
Yeah. Just trying to do that.
Yeah, I don't think it's capitalized.
I thought it looked fancy.
Yeah, so that's my fault. I thought it was a cool name, and I wanted to highlight how cool it was.
And I'll add, page numbers.
And,
Yeah, he's in the town system with lowercase l.
yeah, and I am present at this one, but when in the body of it, it's spelled Hagerty the old country way. Because you have it upright H-A-G, but down below it's H-E-G. Yeah.
Sorry about that.
That's how it's spelled in the old country.
The old?
It really is, yeah.
So it's a Highland Woven?
Yeah, pretty much. I did have one for clarification. There was, I have it on page 2 towards it. It was payroll is about $26,000 a year, which takes, just for like, I would add, Ms. Grasso noted under purchase services that payroll costs are about 20, because when it just says payroll costs about, it's related to purchase services.
It's not actual payroll.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'd amend it to say, Ms. Grasso noted under purchase services, that payroll costs are about $26,000, which takes up the bulk of it.
Any other discussion on 21st minutes?
And then just clarification on, I forget what page it was. 5, related to, Mr. Lambiase says he will put it in his goals. It says budget goals, isn't it just goals? You did say that.
Put it in his budget goals.
This was in relates to management letter comments.
Oh, yeah.
So we don't, you can strike the
It's just
budget.
goals, yeah.
It's just goals.
What page is that on?
5?
Yeah, I didn't realize we were taking such good notes.
We were never this hard on Andrew.
And then, and yeah, and these are excellent. And then on the next page, it says, Mr. Hagerty read the full act. It really should, I just read an overview of the act from the Department of Education. That's it. But no, those are excellent.
Any other discussion?
It's like you were there.
So the motion is to approve the minutes from December 21st as amended. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
That was
That was an aye? All right.
Delayed in favor.
Next on the agenda is correspondence. I did check. We do not have any. Are there any liaison reports? out
There are. Paul and I met with the Council on Aging temporary person in charge on yesterday to discuss the person who's, I guess, responsible for the budget right now as they're in transition. And she explained the things that they do. When I told her about the format, and she's going to provide that. I've written it up, I'll send it out, I won't read it all here. But they do a lot more than just run the senior center. They do, a lot like the veteran services as far as Medicare and open enrollment and Meals on Wheels and all those things that they're doing. Right now, they're working down at least, she said 2 positions, at least one, and I think it's 2.
Yeah.
They're down positions that they're trying to figure out how to fill, and talking to Andrew and Scott. What else do we got? They're trying to figure out ways to save money on some of the vendors that they're doing, and working on the newsletters and getting more, sort of publicity or whatever you call it with the seniors. Get more programs in there to get people in there on a more regular basis, but also people outside the senior program who use it to get them to be paying for janitorial work and things like that so that they don't have to pay for it. We had a couple questions that we wanted her to come with when she said she had an idea how many seniors there are in Abington. We asked her to bring that with her on January 18th. And also how many people come through the building on a regular basis, if she can get that, just so that we know, what our money is going towards. So that's pretty much, everything. Like I said, I'll send it to everybody. But
No, that's great. That's great, thank you. And it definitely sets them up, I think, to be in a much more comfortable position behind the podium, on that night. So
Yeah.
Appreciate that. Any other liaison reports?
Yeah, if I could just, on the school department, I went to the school committee meeting last night, and the school committee approved the budget. I didn't share this last time because I didn't want to take the thunder away from Peter and Felicia, but it came in at $30.1 million. That's a 8.55% increase, or almost 2.4 million. The budget was at 2.28 million last year and they proposed a 5.9% increase. There's contractual, about $1 million in contractual obligations around salary. They're proposing about $400,000 in new positions. About 3 of them, middle school, special education, a .4 person at the high school for English learners, half person at Woodsdale, and then 1 full position for Portuguese and Spanish to add to different programs that they have. There's additional positions that they're also looking at, and then there are positions that they're just not going to budget for. But overall, the budget is an increase of 8.55%. And there was this year special education, the increase of about $600,000, and some of that is dictated by the state, and the state's coming in saying there's like a 14% increase that they're going to, when you see special education tuition, there's like a 14% increase that the state's saying they're going to incur for this year. Transportation's up, about $100,000, and then they're budgeting $200,000 for the laptops to keep the program going and recycling things out. And so that was, one of the things on one of the positions that they are proposing is currently being paid by Esser, yeah. And they want to get that in the budget. And then, so I kind of look at, there was like 3 tranches. The first tranche was like, okay, we really want these. There's one they want to get in the budget. The second tranche was like, okay, a couple of these positions are covered by Esser. We'd like to get in the budget now, but if we said no to it, well, it's up to, we only have one number. But like, if somebody said no, it's like, they would, those positions still could be funded using ESSER money. And then there's the third tranche, was just like informational, like, we want these positions, we're just not gonna budget for them now. And then they reviewed the capital plan and things that are there. But, yeah, so the school committee approved that. That's all I have for the liaison report.
And we won't know Chapter 70 changes until the governor's budget.
Yeah, and thanks for bringing that, because that was one of the things that kind of, you're getting the feeling, and Scott, you know, it's like, we may not be able to make that day for town meeting because of this. Yeah.
It may be, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how quickly they put something together, or, well, not quickly they put it together.
Yeah, because it was said like, you know, late March, April timeframe when they might know what the funding is, and it's like, what's our April?
April 3rd?
Yeah.
I mean, it wasn't very timely when it was the same administration in there, and now it's a whole new one.
Well, with everything that's been going on over, you know, the past 3 years, the fact that they get, you know, any consensus was a miracle.
Yeah.
Anyways, but
Okay.
it is what it is. We can't make them work any quicker. I'm sure the House and the House and the Senate budgets will be in. It's just that, you know, we just have no idea what the new administration.
Right. Thanks, Paul. Appreciate that.
I can send their package out to everybody, because that's what they'll be presenting to us.
Yeah, if you both can send what you have,
Okay.
that would be great for everybody. Any other liaison reports? All right, Andrew, do we have confirmation for next week? Who's coming?
Yes, so Cable Enterprise, Dolphin Enterprise, Library and Fire are all confirmed.
Cable, call. So it might be a longer evening. I did want to bring up 6 o'clock start time. Are we interested in that at all, or is that just an impossibility with everybody's schedule? I see shaking heads. So
That would be tough for me.
Okay.
In there by 6.
All right, understood. So what I'll do is Kelly and I will work on the agenda. We'll get it out tomorrow. Thanks, Paul and Matt, for the heads up last week as far as Monday being a holiday and having to get that thing posted a little earlier. But yeah, we'll get it posted out to you guys this week for next Wednesday. So we'll plan to be here 7 o'clock next week. That's all I've got for you guys.
Motion to adjourn?
Give a second for that.
So motions to adjourn. It was seconded. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All right, thanks, everyone.